think it's true to say that we all try to take our cues from those that we like and respect around us. And I had an anti-nuclear peer group. So I'm going to take these ones apart one at a time, looking at how I was thinking and how I challenged it and moved on. So first point, believing it was dangerous. My main concern was that nuclear accidents are a constant risk and they're catastrophic when they occur. Okay, I had to challenge that and say, well, are nuclear power plants dangerous enough to reject nuclear power? And that context is all important. So I needed to know what's the safety record of nuclear power plants, particularly compared to coal, because that's what we're trying to replace here. And to do that, I thought I'll examine the safety record in the US, in France, and former USSR to get some clues. Beginning with the US, they had 104 nuclear power plants in 2009. The United States is substantially nuclear powered. They get over 20% of their electricity from nuclear power stations. In the history of the industry, they have had precisely 0 deaths due to a radiation incident. Radiation being the only thing, or radioactive material being the only thing that distinguishes nuclear power from other forms of electricity generation, just creating heat to create electricity. From the radiation, there have been no fatalities at all. A little bit of nuclear power station anatomy that I had to go through. Those are the cooling towers. I used to think they were reactors, but they're not cooling towers. Those things there are the reactors, and the lids on top of them are called containment domes. This will become important shortly. That picture there, by the way, is 3 Mile Island, which no doubt we've all heard of. That, where nobody died, and nobody got hurt, and the environment didn't get hurt either, but we've all heard of it. Okay, looking at France now. They had 59 nuclear reactors, or did in 2008. 80% of France's electricity is from nuclear power. So if you've ever been to France, want to go to France, it's a nuclear power country. I feel like we've been hearing in the recycled water debate lately. If you've been to London, or if you've been here, been there, you're drinking recycled water. Well, it's the same with nuclear power in France. The number of deaths in France from the industry is 0, from radiation incident. So nuclear power is still looking quite good from a safety point of view. Of course, it all went wrong in former USSR. The Chernobyl incident had 30 direct fatalities as a result of it. They were workers and firefighters. They died from radiation poisoning and also some from burns. There were other serious health impacts from this accident. They believe, from the studies that have undertaken, that there may have been some 4,000 additional cases of thyroid cancer as a result of Chernobyl. Aside from that, little other radiological health impact from this accident. But there was a major social impact. A lot of disruption. It was very frightening. A lot of people had to move and leave their homes. It's important to realise, without going into all of the deficiencies of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, of which there were many, it did not even have those containment domes that I pointed out in the other picture. A concrete lid on top of the reactor that would have contained the explosion and the resulting fire. It was so deficient it didn't even have that most basic of safety designs. And if you choose to look closer, you would see again and again and again a whole lot of designs that would have made it impossible to license this plant in the United States, for example. The only conclusion I could make was that this was a tragic and catastrophic, by the definition of a catastrophe, multiple fatalities, and very preventable industrial accident. The real story, though, is told globally when you compare nuclear power with other potential baseload energy sources. And what you find is that per unit of electricity generated, nuclear power is by far and away, the safest baseload energy power source that we have. The fatalities in relation to coal are absolutely astounding in both developed and developing nations. The fatalities in relation to hydro in non-OECD nations are absolutely astounding, which I learned the other day from Barry is probably due to a single event where a hydroelectric dam collapsed in China in the 70s and killed 200,000 people. I can't even remember the name of that. Barry told me the other day, and I put it to you that most of us haven't actually heard of it. But it killed 200,000 people. Like hydro in Tasmania, we don't worry about it that much. But the record speaks for itself. Were it not for that terrible accident at Chernobyl, it would be 0,000. So, are they dangerous enough to reject nuclear power? No, they are exceptionally safe, and they're getting safer all the time. Those accidents that have occurred are a very poor basis for rejecting nuclear power. They're a good basis for safety and safety procedures. So, I cannot reject nuclear power outright on the basis of safety. I've had to get rid of that one from my list of objections. My next stop was the waste. I believe that it's deadly, that it's long-lived, and that it's hard to manage. Okay, is that true enough that I need to reject nuclear power? I didn't know what it was, so what is it? How is it managed? How does it compare to other toxic waste that we deal with all the time? And crucially, again, how does it compare to what happens from coal? First of all, what is it? Well, I found out that it's actually mostly uranium. It's mostly the stuff that we're using as fuel, except it's an isotope of uranium the current reactors can't actually consume. What do we do with it? Well, first of all, it's stored in a nuclear power plant for a few years to cool down, get some of the heat and some of the radiation off it. And then it's transferred into short-term containment that looks a bit like this. There's one here from Korea, one here from the Netherlands. It's not that big a deal, really. And then we leave it there, safely locked up, safely secured, away from home. It's actually not terribly complex. It doesn't move, it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't do anything, it just sits there and radiates. As long as we put enough between us and it, it's really not an issue. If we wanted to, it's technically quite possible to bury it a heck of a long way underground and get it right out of the way. No government has yet succeeded in getting this option up off the ground, which I suspect, I haven't looked at it that closely, is largely a social acceptance issue. I think technically, I can't imagine there's too much problem. And in fact, if you had it underground, which is down on the far left-hand side of this chart here, you'd find that the additional radiation you'd be getting from it is way less than you're getting every day from background radiation. A couple of magnitudes more less than if you happen to live in Ramsar in Iran, that has the most background radiation of any town in the world. Less than you get if you jumped on a return flight from here to London, or London to Tokyo. It would be very, very safe. I thought to myself, what else are we dealing with? And how does it compare, for a bit of extra context? Turns out that these days we're producing 1.1 million tonnes of hazardous waste every single year in Australia. That's not including post-consumer waste. So every time we chuck the batteries in the bin because we're a bit lazy to take them out for recycling, that's toxic waste, that's hazardous waste, and that's going where it shouldn't go. Includes all sorts of nasties, chemical byproducts, metals, metallic compounds, things that you don't want to be near, things that stay dangerous and deadly forever. If we had a 25 gigawatt nuclear power industry in Australia, a proper mature industry, it would produce about 750 tonnes of the high level waste on an annual basis. By weight, that's an additional 0.07% that we are currently producing in other forms of waste. If we ran that all for 60 years, we'd end up with 45,000 tonnes, or 4% of what we currently produce every year. So, I'm not saying that high level nuclear waste isn't particularly challenging in some respects, but we are already somehow managing a heck of a lot of hazardous waste. And I put it to you that we should be up to the challenge of responsibly managing this a little bit more. Is the benefit we get from is clean electricity in every other respect. This is a doozy. Let's compare it to coal waste. 2.2 gigawatts in the Loy Yang Valley of generation. 60,000 tonnes of coal per day to do that, per day. Per year gives us 577,000 cubic metres of fly ash for disposal at the on-site overburden dump, which sounds great. 9,000 megalitres of wastewater, including 3,500 megalitres of ash water. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I don't really want to either. 2,000 tonnes of fly ash just straight up the chimney, externalised onto all of us, not costed, not captured. 56,000 tonnes of sulphur dioxide to contribute to acid rain, 30,000 tonnes of nitrous oxide, 2,500 tonnes of carbon monoxide, not to mention 18 million tonnes of greenhouse gas. And then if it's radiation that we actually care about, coal waste out of the chimney is also radioactive. And in fact, from a coal-fired power plant compared to a nuclear power plant, it releases about 100 times the amount of radiation into the surrounding environment. Okay, so I get to the end of the waste problem for myself. I'm quite satisfied. High-level waste is undesirable, but it's small and it's very manageable and it's way, way better than what we're doing to the environment from coal. And frankly, transitioning our electricity generation from coal to nuclear power, well managed, would be hugely beneficial to the environment, to human health. It has to be well managed, but I can't stand behind that as a reason to reject nuclear power any longer. Okay, definitely my next biggest one was the fact that nuclear power leads to nuclear weapons or so overrated. And that's an unacceptable compromise. What I believed was that the nations that have adopted nuclear power